Hi, welcome to Detours, Understanding Acquired Brain Injury. And with us, we have our very favorite elf. We've got Emily here. And um, so we're going to be talking about different things like parenting and how you modify a lot of like fun activities that you do with kids. And, she's our favorite Renaissance fair junkie, as she says. She's dressed up as her elf character. Um, she's going to be sharing that with us and like different ways to modify activities like that and different things you can do. But she's also going to be talking about her role as a parent and like how when you have, you know, tweens and kids and like teenagers and like stuff like that and ways you can have fun and maybe make them embarrassed and other things like that. So Emily, can you?
Yes. So after my accident, my parents actually took my daughter, who's 12 years old now, and they're still watching her right now because I'm still recovering. But she's here for the week, so I've been experiencing some new parenting because 11 is a lot different than 12. I've noticed they're a lot more maybe self-conscious at 12 than they are at 11. But it's been an absolute pleasure having her be here. So I'm excited that I got to spend a holiday with her. It's been a while. Um, but it's definitely trickier now. With the memory loss, that makes it especially difficult because they'll tell you something and it might be really important, but you may not remember 5 minutes later what that was. And so I can tell it's frustrating for her sometimes that, like, why don't you just remember that? I seriously told you like 30 seconds ago and you don't remember. And so that, I think it's frustrating for both of us.
Does she
The
have a strategy, to help her or to help you remember, like as far as that's concerned?
um, I don't know if she's come up with any strategies yet.
Hmm.
I think it's so new that some of it's like she's just realizing now that there's things that I do differently. She was helping me in the kitchen on Sunday with making dinner, and even that it's like such a task for me now, like cooking a full meal.
Hmm.
So much like I almost burnt the cornbread,
Hmm.
almost house down, like
Just like you do.
like this is totally normal. She's like, yeah, okay, like yeah, a little. We now you're like you really for anything. Like, yeah, I know. Yep.
Does she find you're more relaxed, more kind of chilled?
I think so. Yes. I've definitely noticed I'm not raising my voice
Yeah,
like that. I'm like, yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yep. So that's definitely it. I'm not taking things that she does or said so personally now, which is really good when you're a parent. If you can kind of just separate that and like not get emotional because they are going to say things and push your buttons and see how far they can push you. And so I think that will come in handy.
You know what? And that's related to a video that Kate and I have, then another one where we talk about some of the benefits of brain injury. And that is one of them. You're less, less anxious, less wound up, less wrapped around yourself. You have less of those issues after a brain injury. People who benefit from it find that they are just less, less, you know, uptight about themselves and stuff like that. And so, they're it helps your confidence in a weird sort of way because you're more apathetic. It's more like, yeah, whatever. And
Yeah,
so And so I found for myself, I'm less, I have my moments, no question about it. But for
Oh,
the most, yeah, but and that'll definitely help when she comes back. You're definitely going to be less like, you know,
yes. Yes, that's gonna be good to not be so reactive.
yeah,
Definitely.
and it might help her avoid some of the challenges you had. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's the hope, I think, is that she'll be okay. Like, I know it's been traumatic for her, but I think that she has a really good support network. So I think she'll be okay. Yeah, it's just yeah. Well, yeah, I mean her mom almost died, so I guess it makes sense that she's a little traumatized.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's not something you normally laugh about, but hey, I mean, survivors have a different sense of humor too.
that's
Um,
true. Yup. Yup. I know. I'm like, oh boy.
yeah, no, that definitely alters your sense of humor and things you find funny for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I almost died. Yeah, yeah, whatever. So, what else would you say you have, and what changes have you made? What would you recommend for parents who, who after they suffer a brain injury, what kind of changes would you recommend they make? Um,
If you have older children, I definitely recommend having them help you because I think it helps them realize, oh my, people aren't perfect and it's okay to ask for help, which is
right
huge.
there are about very important. It's like to realize, hey, mom or dad, and I find that a majority, it's like, especially, when it's like if it's son with dad or mom with daughter, that bond is important. So to realize that no, I'm not perfect, and it's okay to help out, and it's okay to even ask those kind of questions, and not
Yes,
be afraid. Not be afraid of the parent with brain injury. That's an important one too.
that is
Um, any other specific suggestions? Anything you've discovered over this week of working?
definitely kind of like laying out the day beforehand because I will get kind of stuck sometimes if I don't know, if I don't plan the day out beforehand, I feel like I just can't do anything. So I like to plan it out.
Mhm.
And then it's that way, it's something that I'll follow through with. If I just don't think like if I don't give myself something to do, then I'm just gonna be kind of like,
Yes,
I don't know what to do. So
adynamia again. Yeah,
yeah,
that is a killer. The apathy and the apathy is the emotional side of adynamia, which is the motor cognitive side. So we've discussed this a whole lot and strategies for dealing with it. Adynamia is that lack of willpower. It's not that you are lazy or don't want to do something. It's just you really can't get started. Your transmission's kind of stuck in in park or whatever, and you cannot shift it into drive. You've got these plans or whatever. So by organizing your day, by having things to get moving for, and by having somebody else like kind of kick you in the rear, as it were, to get
yeah,
you to move. And the apathy is that is the emotional equivalent of like nothing of not of it's not like not caring, but it's not being able to get motivated, finding no motivation, kind of meh.
yes,
And it applies to your, and here's how you know that it is from the brain injury and that is related to that is it applies to everything and everybody, including you. So if even your favorite stuff about yourself, you can't, then you know it is a neurologically based apathy because it applies to self as well. So even your favorite whatever, your favorite person, your favorite things, your favorite foods, whatever, nothing moves you. There
yeah,
are treatments for that and there are ways to deal with that. And like, kind of like what you're doing here, this kind of thing, it pushes you to go and, it gets your day rolling or you have some plans or whatever. It's a great way to manage and handle that. And, it's like, even us doing this little thing kind of gets it into gear, which is why we'll be doing, these kind of things like regularly. It kind of like puts a little bit of momentum, and this is why I try to get my people make videos like to plan out and do like regularly scheduling and planning stuff, because it helps, and it helps me too, because if I don't have any like organized, excuse me, forgive me for that, like plans or anything like that, I don't shift forward. And it's like, this is also why, like, I think it's great that you're, like want to do like fun stuff and get back involved in your hobbies. Like, and is there anything you like to do with your daughter? What is her name? Memory. What?
Evan.
Evan.
Yeah.
So with Evan, then, are there activities you would recommend as a parent with brain injury? I mean, it's like, I know that dragging her along, to run fairs or whatever may have been, it's like as a kid, you're kind of like, hey, this is cool. But then you hit that age and you're kind of like, man, maybe not.
Yeah.
And mom and her elf get up here may be a bit embarrassing, but maybe doing that occasionally with your kid, you know, is good for them.
Yeah.
To remind him that you're still there, that the important parts of you are still there, that sense of fun is still there. And I think that is important also because, um, again, as I said earlier, it's like you don't want your kid to be afraid of you, or if you're the survivor or if you're the caretaker, you don't want to be afraid of your spouse, a brain injured spouse, because they may have irritability or angry moments. They may have outbursts. You want them to know and to feel confident, or they may have problems with the um, caregiver spouse. They may have a problem, if you're married, they may have a problem with the person who's the caretaker. Because oftentimes the caretaker, it's because the brain injured spouse is the more fun one. The old upstairs downstairs parent routine. So the upstairs parent is the one who does the fun stuff, who takes them out, or who, plays games with them, who does those kind of things. And then the downstairs parent has to do the cooking and the cleaning and does the disciplinary stuff, does the hard stuff. And they're not as popular with the kid, and the kids ends up being angry or disliking them. And they're like, well, hey, you know, that spouse gets angry and feels like nobody cares about them. That's often the caretaker. And then so they're already in effect taking care of two kids. They've got the brain injured spouse they've got to make sure is all right. And then they're the real kid. And then
Yeah.
both of them end up buddy buddy. And then they're like, well, so now I've got, a bad relationship with both of them. You can kind of see that dynamic with dealing, where um Lisa, who made videos with us before, and she just got overwhelmed. She eventually left, but she felt kind of like her daughter had problems dealing with her husband Justin, who kind of had to play well more of the where although she was the one with the brain injury, she had to play more of the like primary role there, and so that kind of led to conflicts between Justin and her daughter, where um, it complicates matters like that. And so, so it's hard on either side, but like I could see your daughter developing a connection more with, with you because you'd be more fun and, like despite being embarrassed by,
Yes.
yes, but at the same time, you'd be the more fun one. And so it definitely, and you're more relaxed and, you're more like, and so that could be an issue for dynamics also. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something to know. But you also are able to do the cooking and the, those kind of things. But at the same time, you are definitely like, or recognize that you need the help. And so I think you actually will have a very good relationship with your daughter once she's used to, what's going on with you. I think the two of you will be very close. Um,
Yes.
and forgive me for putting it this way, but the brain injury may actually have done the two of you a favor, may bring you
Closer in the
closer
long.
in the
Yeah,
long run, not immediately, but maybe closer in the long run, and may make it a much, a much more affectionate kind of, you know, but I'm not saying that doesn't make things still hard, because I mean, it's like anytime you have brain injury, it's like, again, I wouldn't recommend people go out there and bash their heads, as I said with Kate. It's like, yeah, it may make some things better for you, especially if you struggled before in some ways, but I certainly wouldn't recommend going out there and hitting your head. It's like, so what are some things that your brain injuries made harder for you as a parent?
definitely.
I mean, so I know the memories an element, but
Yeah, keeping up with all the chores can be difficult. Um, mm, Cooking is a slow process, so it's like a meal that should take like half an hour to make. Make sure you put like double the time,
mhm,
because there's a lot of going back and checking.
which is
Like,
smart.
did I not do that? Do a checklist type thing. But yeah, it definitely takes me a lot longer to cook. Um,
Mhm. Making sure you turned off the stove then when you're done and all that good stuff.
exactly. Yep. So it's it can be a little tricky, but it's good to have a kid there, especially like the older ones.
Right.
Because like, are you sure you should be doing that? Like,
Yeah, they're asking you those questions.
yeah.
What kind of stuff has she asked you that for? I'm curious.
Let's see here. While we were doing potato soup,
Hmm.
and she was saying I was like doing things aggressively that day, but not really aggressively towards her, but like the way that I was making cornbread, and I
Right.
egg, and apparently I just like banged the crap out of this egg to open it.
Uh-huh.
And then with a measuring cup too, I broke a measuring cup.
Whoa.
I was like trying to get like the little crumbs out of the
You hit
bottom.
it. Oh, okay. Just a
And
little
so
too vigorously.
yeah,
Okay.
I broke the measuring cup. And then I also there was a pizza box in the oven for some reason. And I didn't know it was in there.
Oh no. I
All of
wouldn't
this,
have looked either.
this smoke coming out of one of the burners. And I was like, oh,
Oh
did I
no.
burner on? So I went over and I said, well, that's not hot. And then it started smelling like smoke. And I opened the oven and I was like, oh my God. You,
Stuff I would have done too.
like that's so
Yeah.
it's good to have someone babysitting you while you're cooking.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As long as they don't end up doing it too much, it's okay. Somebody to check your, wait a second. Yeah, as long as they don't have to do it too much, you're okay. As long as they check like some of the and remind you, wait a minute, maybe you shouldn't be doing. Yeah,
Yep. Yep. Just somebody to check in. Like
right.
nothing's on fire, right?
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, definitely. It's stuff I've done. It's stuff I've done. Um, when I was talking to another friend of mine, and she was like, so what happens if you put, she was like, you shouldn't put two people with brain injury together in the same house. And I was like, well, I know that situation. And for a couple people where they've got two people with brain injuries together, either mom or their mom and daughter have brain injury, or um, a couple that's together with brain injury. And it usually makes things kind of complicated because it's usually kind of a disaster. But none of them have destroyed things where I know that, but I could think of about like 7 or 8 situations like that. But it's
Yeah,
always kind of like, oh, I definitely need a house manager, just me, and maybe a nurse or two to help me out. But when it's like, you know, couples or mom and daughter and it is for a couple of them that I know where it's like a mom daughter combo where it's both of them have brain injury, and it's like, yeah, they both kind of need a little bit of extra help. And it's not me being critical. It's just the truth. When you
yeah,
have, yeah, when you've got two people with brain injury living together, it definitely makes it much more challenging. So yeah, one of those like kind of situations.
yeah.
Do you find that, like so, yeah, that you've had to like change some of the activities or like things that you know
Yeah, we don't hike quite as much as we used to.
mm,
Um, because the weather hasn't been very nice out
yeah,
lately.
no, that's true.
You know. So, but and I would say that I had to take more downtime now. So we're doing
Yes.
more mellow type things like playing games or watching a movie. Just because like I'll do one big thing for the day, and I'm like, I am just exhausted. So physical therapy took it out of me today. So
Yeah, and that's the other thing is too is like neurofatigue where you just feel depleted, after doing stuff. Although you're still a fairly new survivor, so that is definitely for me. My standard for like a new survivor is within that year, within the first year, after you've had about a year under your belt with doing it, then I consider you, like it's like beginner advanced beginner after like that year. It's kind of like swimming when you learn, and as you become more experienced, it's like because you've learned then techniques, you've already you once you've completed all your rehab, your acute and outpatient rehab, then you're kind of in a more experienced, it's like, but you first you really don't, you're a neophyte, and it right up until you've completed your rehab like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And so you're still figuring yourself out. I mean, your daughter's still with your grandparents. How's that? How does that, how is that, with her not being with you? That's got to be hard.
it's really hard. I definitely, I feel guilty a lot of the time. And she's not here with me yet, but she's better with my parents right now because they can do all of the things that a
I,
kid has done. I'm not quite there yet.
well, I
So
think it's great that you have that to help you. I mean, I wish more survivors had like they had family they could like rely on to, because that actually is doing her a favor too, is doing your daughter a big favor, so that she's not immediately burdened with you at your most vulnerable, and she gets to see you further along, and she gets to rebuild her relationship over time. Because what I would also ask is, then what are things that are the same between you guys, stuff that you do, and your relationship I'm sure has changed. um but she's also 12, which is different
yeah,
from being 11. So
like totally different ball game.
yeah. So how is how has your relationship changed, first of all?
It's definitely she is taking on a more responsible role. Um so she's kind of like she's taking over on some of the things that I typically would be responsible for, but she'll see me struggling. She's like, "Hey, I got this."
Okay.
So, I mean, even down to like opening things, which is still really hard for me. I don't have a whole lot of my mom
Dexterity.
uh where they used to be, so she'll help me open things.
Mhm.
Um, that's a big one. And but really, I feel like the base relationship
It's
itself,
still the same.
yes,
That's
Yeah,
so important too, because it seems like other than being a little more chill, you know, a little more like, which is good. Emotionally, you're a lot more stable than many people with brain injury, which especially considering, it's like frontal lobe, you probably have more of like it's more dorsolateral and more medial, and you don't have the affective symptoms as much, which is good, because it allows you to preserve. You don't explode, in rage and stuff like that. I mean, you obviously you do have a problem with kitchen utensils, but and mixing cups. But apart from
yeah.
that, and
Thank
and you're
you,
and so
know.
but it's like motor stuff that can be dealt with. You can always deal with those kind of problems. It's the psychosocial stuff that's hard. So what kind of activities do you do that are the same?
Let's see here. We play with the dog. We do a lot of just like nonsensical type stuff, like a
That's
lot
great.
of side jokes, or she'll tell me what's going on with all her friends at school, which is always fun. It's gotten much more interesting this year.
I'm sure. Because what is what, seventh grade?
She's in sixth grade, almost
Sixth.
seven.
Okay.
Yep. So she's in
I
middle
don't know.
school.
Um, so okay, so well, yeah, no, I guess that would, because they would be starting middle school now,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Junior
she's
high. Yeah.
done with her first year of middle school.
Uh,
Oh, that's yeah, it's been fun.
it sounds like it, and like I said, yeah, as long as you can get some of the nonsensical stuff, the joy, some of the laughs, and it's like, and your responsibility is to embarrass her regularly too.
Oh yeah.
I think that is the mandate of every parent on the planet. Darn it.
Yes. Yeah,
Just like you do right now. You're talking about her, talking about school, talking about stuff you do with her, your role as parenting. You're dressed up as your elf character, which we'll see plenty of. Um, that's popular. So yeah, you have lots of opportunities to embarrass. You're talking about your brain injury. All these things are designed specifically to embarrass um, kids of that age. I mean, guaranteed. That's your job. That is a parent's job. When the kid reaches about like 10 or 11, that is a parent's job, is to humiliate the heck out of their kids, because they spent they're the first like 5 or 6 years embarrassing you. It's turnabout is fair play, right?
true, true.
Sure. So your job is to embarrass the heck out of her in a kind of way, but to also get some laughs and
Yeah.
just enjoy doing it. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think anything else, any other advice you would give, like to a parent who's just starting this process of figuring out, what am I going to do? I've got brain injury, but I've got one or two kids, like maybe three or four. What am I going to do?
Definitely be patient with yourself and patient with your children, because every or nobody really knows how to deal with it in the beginning. So just yeah, patience is really, that was huge for me. And I had times where I just wanted to give up and like, I can't do this, but you just kind of keep on keeping on, and things do eventually start kind of like making more sense, I guess. But it's hard. It is hard. Um, Especially like with mine being away and stuff. That's been really hard, but I know like
It's for her own good in the
yeah,
end. And
yes,
that's got to be tough for her to deal with too, I'm sure. She's like wondering, like, is it my fault in some way? Because kids like who deal with any kind of that trauma, even if they don't talk about it, wonder, hey, am I? And it's not, but it is to allow you to focus on rehab, allow her to focus on being a kid, which is her job.
Yeah,
And so she doesn't end up having to be your parent and put aside her education. And that's something important to stress with viewers out there. You don't want your own kid to have to be your parent, and it's especially a problem while you're at your most intense time of rehab. They will always have to do some parental type of roles after a brain injury because we have memory problems. We have some thinking problems, planning problems, cognitive problems, emotional problems. So they'll always have to do some of that role. It's inevitable. It's just the way it is. Too bad. But you want to make it as easy on them. And this is why your willingness to sacrifice and have other, have your grandparents pitch in like this is a good thing. Um, Jocelyn did as much of that as she could. She didn't quite have as many resources, but for the good of her own, it's like
yes,
got as much help as she could because she was in a very vulnerable state. And, it's like, and you don't want to force your kids to have to be your caretaker, at least not
exactly.
initially. When after a year or so, once you've completed the hardcore rehab, and once you're after about a year or two, this is, most people say you're done healing after a year or two. That is not true. You heal for the rest of your life, but your disabilities are set. The problems that you're going to have are the problems you're going to have. So you're like the things that you have are you're not quite there yet, but what you've got is what you got pretty much. But you will get better in those realms. They will improve over, they won't as rapidly get better. They'll get better by inches.
Yeah,
Once after about a year or two, they get better by inches. But you know what's wrong with you. You know the things to plan for. You know the areas to focus neuroplasticity on. So you're like, I need to work on this because I know my memory sucks. So I know I need to like write stuff down. I know I have problems with motivation. I know that I have these thinking problems in these areas, these focus areas. And so if I'm engaging my kid, to help me with things, all right, like I know I need to plan ahead. My kid can help me plan ahead with food, and break it down to simple steps for the kids so they can help you. But at least you know what's going to be your problems. It's not
yeah,
like it could be anything. At least you now know. So,
yeah,
those kind of things. And so, and like this is one of the things you have something like a lot of our other people who've made videos with us, either their kids are gone away or they don't have kids or they have very young kids.
yeah,
And so that kind of complicates, So yeah. I just really want to thank you for sharing. And, it's been really insightful actually. And hopefully a lot of people will find this very helpful.
yeah,
Um, and, it's like, because there are a lot of challenges when you're a parent with brain injury trying to raise, raise a kid, especially of these sensitive years, like coming on the teenage years, So, if you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that, you want to, any messages for Emily or for me or any of our others, please put them in the comment section below. Like, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon, of course. Um, Anything you want to add before we get ready to go?
I don't think so. Thank you. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
my makeup
What?
today. My
Oh,
daughter did my makeup today.
well,
So
thank you to our makeup artist. I mean, it's like, and hopefully soon we'll have ears for you.
yes.
Yes. Thanks again. And it's like it was a very enlightening, very good, um, and helpful. All right. So bye guys. Bye.